it's time for the very nervous people in the front row to give their flash presentations as finalists of this year's ALPS Award for Innovation in Publishing. This year the awards are sponsored by MPS, and thanks very much to them for supporting this. To guide us through this session, we have the chair of the ALPS Awards judging panel, who will have his finger on the eject button should any of the finalists go over their allotted time. So please welcome David Summer of Kudos.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Come up. You want to take your seats, guys? We'll just arrange the stage here. We have 7 people going to be speaking. Perfect. Very good. Thank you very much, Audrey. And welcome to the ALPS 2016 Awards for Innovation in Publishing, sponsored very generously by MPS. So we had over 40 entries this year, which is somewhat of a record, more than we've had in recent years. And I really would like to thank everybody that took the time to submit an entry. I know how much time goes into that, so thank you very much to all 40-plus applicants. We have 8 judges on the panel, which represent publishers, institutions, vendors, standards bodies, and industry organisations as well. And this year we've also increased our international reach, and we've got a better gender balance on the panel, although still some more work to do there. And when you think about it, we had 40 submissions. The average submission was about 10 pages. Times the 8 judges that read those, that's about 3,000 pages of text that was read, digested, evaluated and scored. So I'm incredibly grateful and want to really thank the judges who took the time to do that. Our judging panel are Andrew Barker from the University of Liverpool, Lorraine Estelle from Counter, Richard Geddy from STM, Jane Harville from the University of Sussex, Robert Ialano from IC Publishing, John Shaw from Sage, and David Smith from the IET. So could we first of all acknowledge our judges, please? So this year we managed to whittle down those 40-plus applicants down to 6 finalists. And hopefully you've had a chance to read a bit about them in the programme, and also there's some great blog posts that Suzanne put together. Strongly recommend you have a look at those if you haven't already done so. So our 6 finalists are An Adventure in Statistics, The Reality Enigma from Sage Publishing, Cartoon Abstracts from Taylor and Francis, the Crossref Metadata API, Knowledge Unlatched, Orchid, and Wiley ChemPlanner. And each of them is going to get 5 minutes to present an overview of their entry and perhaps even say why they think they should be the winner of this award. So, without further ado, we're going to start off with An Adventure in Statistics, The Reality Enigma from Sage Publishing, and Mark Kavanagh is going to speak. Mark, the floor is yours.
So, hello everyone. Firstly, just to say how exciting it is to have been shortlisted, so thank you very much to the judges. For those of you who have not been through this process, it is extraordinarily rigorous. It just shows you how much the judges, how much time they put in. So why are we here? Student needs and expectations are evolving significantly. So as a publisher with a wide-ranging portfolio of textbooks, we've had to ask ourselves, what new publishing experiences can we enable that respond to these shifting needs? And how can we champion innovation through our books program as a leading independent social science and methods publisher? Now, a few years ago, we commissioned Andy Field to write an introductory textbook to complement his already successful Discovering Stats using SPSS, which is one of the best-selling social science textbooks to come out of the UK. Now, as a proven engager of students and an author we work closely, we knew we could give him complete freedom within that framework to nurture his ideas around the ultimate way to engage students in a subject that they traditionally struggle with. We saw an opportunity to promote innovation within our textbook programme, specifically using research methods as our sandpit to play with pedagogy and to better understand learning styles. Now, there you go. Before I move on to more about the project itself, I wanted to share some of the feedback that we've received from those who have already seen it, who have already seen the book. Now, I've been involved in textbook publishing for nearly 20 years, and I cannot say with any conviction that I've seen this kind of praise for one before. We just look at that top left one. Let's read it. What a textbook. I could not refrain myself from taking a few pictures and sending to friends. And next to it, we have a lecturer who's taken a photo of the book on holiday and tweeted it. I don't know about you, but you don't get many people taking photos of a textbook and sending it to their friends. We also have faculty feedback calling it a masterpiece. Again, this is not language that you normally associate with textbooks, let alone ones in stats. So why is it different to other textbooks? Where it departs from convention is in conveying statistical concepts through a story. That is, the interactions of characters in a novel-length fictional narrative. It uses a science fiction love story in which Zach searches for his beloved Alice in a futuristic dystopian world, one in which every character he meets wants to teach him stats. Another departure has been the inclusion of graphic novel-style artwork, which brings a highly visual dimension to the reading experience. Now, we supported Andy through the writing process, providing funding for an illustrator and a fiction advisor, and the team at Sage worked intensively on developing the look and feel consistent with the artwork, adding value to the visual experience. This quote at the bottom is summarising some of the early feedback that we got from student reviewers. The narrative and visuals have made wading through stats much more palatable for some, creating an environment more conducive to self-motivated learning, something of a holy grail. So why does this project make sense for Sage? Delivering such a unique undertaking involved doing a lot of things that we'd never done before. However, when you break down this project, there are a lot of things that we did know well. Firstly, statistics is a market that we're very familiar with, and we know students find it hard. Secondly, when it comes to the medium of innovation, it's a good old-fashioned print textbook. Yes, it has been thoroughly rethought, but it stays true to a tried and tested method of delivering teaching and learning. Thirdly, we're working with someone we know well and trust enough to know the ultimate way to engage students. And what we didn't know so well, we were keen to learn. With this project, we adopted a bottom-up development process once the draft was available. It allowed us to learn more directly from students about how the book could be used, what the strengths and weaknesses were, and how we could tailor our sales and marketing strategies accordingly. Our goal was to build up a bank of positive student testimonials as a way of influencing potential adopters. We've learned a lot from this project already, and we still have an awful lot more to learn, something that we've embraced and embarked on more broadly across our Methods textbook publishing programme. And Adventures in Stats represents our most far-reaching foray into understanding how to better engage students, but it's certainly not the final word from us on the matter. Adopting the mindset of learning by doing, we're conducting a series of experiments of varying scales across our textbook publishing programme in both print and digital. The emphasis is on learning by doing, failing fast, to contribute to and benefit from a better understanding of engaging students at a time when they are increasingly influential in what get used on campus. And I want to end on that last point. It's something that we see as a crucial development in the textbook world, and one which may be key to driving growth in the area. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Mark. So next up is cartoon abstracts from Taylor and Frances, and Ben Hudson is going to tell us about that. So Ben, the floor is yours.
Okay, hello. My name is Ben Hudson. And the clicker's working. Okay. My name is Ben Hudson. I'm the creator of cartoon abstracts at Taylor and Frances. And I'm billing these as a fun new way of visualizing academic research. So let me tell you a bit about these. You're probably wondering, what is a cartoon abstract and how did they come into being? I'm a marketer, and it's my job to make sure that things get, articles are read as much as possible. We're all familiar with social media walls that are far too busy with far too much text going on. But I do know what does work. Press releases work well to an extent. They tell a really nice story, but they lack the visual engagement. Similarly, infographics work quite well, but they lack the storytelling behind them. So what I wanted to do is find a way to blend the two. So I found an illustrator and got to work, and this is what a cartoon abstract is. It's a single page that shows an author's research in a highly visual and highly engaging way. And the benefits are so many. It really catches your eye instantly if you see it on a social media wall. And we're going to explore a few common elements that make these such a success. Firstly, we can include the authors as characters within each and every single one of these, and that works so well in catching our audience's attention, whether it's through us promoting these or whether it's through the author promoting it themselves. By doing this, it also encourages the author to promote the cartoon abstract through their networks. Here's another example. In this instance, your open plan office can make you ill. And some visuals. We've got the author characters again. We have infographic style elements to it. We have the research findings portrayed in quite a humorous way. And of course, we have a link so that the users of the readers of these cartoon abstracts can ultimately download the article, which was my main aim in the first place, being a marketer. As well as that, it's great promotion of Taylor and Frances and the journals that we publish. Again, here's another example, this time with coat colour and aggressive behaviours in domestic cats. I've used parody in this instance. If you recognise this scene as being that from Jurassic Park, then well done, give yourselves a pat on the back. And I've used nostalgia as well. Here we have top trumps to show off the research findings. So to date, I've created 45 of these across different subject areas, and they're working really well in promoting the articles behind them. We can even do quick wins with these, such as translating them into different languages for different markets. However, I would like to state that one of the big bonuses of doing cartoon abstracts is that visuals really do help to transcend language barriers. We'll see more of that in a minute. So, I have a homepage through which I promote these. I'm promoting them individually. I'm also promoting them as a flip book, which you can scroll through and view all of them. I'm promoting them as well through a printed comic, which is working really well at conferences. People actually take this away, which is a bit of a revelation for conference stands. There you go, some lovely feedback from an individual there. And we can create posters of individual cartoons, which we can promote through our channels, but which we can also send to authors to promote through their means and put up in their office or place of work, or even take to a poster session. Authors really love it. We have so much positive feedback, words like, wow, awesome, this is super cool. And through including them as characters, it really does help them to share through their own channels. Obviously, we only have a limited communications reach, but the authors have far more connections than we do. And marketing always sounds better from the author's mouth. So in this particular instance, the author tweeted, and there's been a lot of positive feedback. Beyond the promotion that's been driven by us or by authors, this really has gone viral as well. And there's so many positive examples of comments coming in almost on a daily basis. If you go to Twitter and you search for cartoon abstracts, you'll see hundreds of similar comments to these. It's been really engaging to watch happen. Beyond the social media, there's been plenty of blogs written about this. not just in English language either, but Spanish language. Like I said, these do transcend language barriers. And as well as the blogs, we've even been featured on the United States Department of Agriculture website, as well as having our Chinese language cartoon endorsed by the WWF. So, also what's been the impact? Obviously, downloads was one of my original aims, and we're really seeing a huge increase in downloads through this venture. Beyond the downloads and the impacts, we've also seen a really positive uptake by people beyond our usual communities. I've been approached by a STEMnet ambassador who has taken this into schools. I've had teachers approach me who want to use these resources in their classroom. I've also had our more traditional people, such as librarians, want these to disseminate to their customers as well as quite typically academics at conferences wanting to take them home for their children. Okay. So, final slide, what are my plans for the future? This is obviously working really well, and I want to continue to disseminate research to new audiences in this new way. As stated in the abstract, are comics a good medium for science communication? Yes, science comics have the potential to develop lay people's ongoing interest and enjoyment for science. Thank you.
Very good. Great. Thank you very much, Ben. It's a bit of a tough call to move from cartoons to APIs, but it's just as exciting, I assure you. So the Crossref Metadata API, Rachael Lammey is going to tell us all about that.
You've stolen my joke, I think. That's all right. Okay, so thank you very much for inviting us to speak. So, 5 minutes. I'm Rachael, I'm going to talk about the Crossref Metadata API. A lot of you in the audience know Crossref already. In terms of talking about the API and the uses for it, I'm just going to focus on the kind of last part of that remit. So, making tools and services to help improve research communications. So, in very simple terms, the API is a way for the metadata that publishers provide Crossref to be used more widely, helping the discoverability of content. My colleague affectionately refers to what the API makes available, a big blob of continually updated information about scholarly works. So Crossref collects metadata, but we need to find effective, future-looking ways of making that available to be integrated into different tools and services. I think to talk to Ian's one lathe for lots of different purposes, rather than custom building different outputs for different services or providers. It lets you, what does it do? It lets you search on, filter, and facet Crossref metadata. It's free to use. The code's publicly available on GitHub to encourage use. And as I said, it helps unlock the value behind the data or the information that publishers are depositing with Crossref. What makes it unique? APIs enable connections between systems. That in itself isn't unique. But more and more we're working with developer communities who are keen to access and use the Crossref metadata and not have to download terabytes of static information before they have to work with it. Because it's Crossref, it is cross-publisher, so being able to come to Crossref to find information on published research from over 6,000 member publishers. There are no barriers to entry for smaller publishers. You don't have to do anything bar give Crossref metadata or information for that to be included. And it's dynamic. So we encourage publishers to update metadata. We encourage them to add further information, who funded the research, which license is it published under. And again, if you're downloading terabytes of static information, you can't get that. So being able to query something that dynamically updates as publishers update information makes it more usable by different services. I've already mentioned the kind of metadata that we collect, from basic bibliographic information to Orchid IDs, identifying the paper, the funder, and the author. Kind of things I can ask it on a fairly basic level. What types of publications is Crossref collecting DOIs for? Also, quick question, how many works that Crossref can see have funding information associated with them? At the last count, that was about 1.5 million articles. So you can just put that search into your browser, get that information back. You don't have to interrogate all of the data in a more labour-intensive way. To quote my colleague, I was saying, well, what's the best way to talk about this? And he said, well, imagine you had all of the metadata from all of the Crossref publisher members and you could integrate it into your systems. What would you do with it? So what are people doing with it? And that's really the key. There's no point providing this if people aren't actually using it. We've built our own search services on top of the API, one to look specifically at funding information and one to look at just the more general metadata in an easier interface for a casual sort of browser to look at it. And we'll add the event data service, so looking at the ways that the content is used post-publication into the API. PDF library management tools, so being able to enter a DOI into a tool to look up the bibliographic information for that article so that you're not having to enter it manually. Data entry is something that is still all too prevalent. Reporting and funding activities, publishing activities, author activities, and then also with things like full text links, being able to use that and the license information to try to get the full text for mining purposes. That's just a couple of high-level use cases. And this popped up the other week, actually using it for research as well. So looking at institutional spending published in PeerJ. And the authors of the paper mentioned that they've used an R library to interrogate the API to look at XML, to look at publication information, bibliographic information across publishers. To finish, the proof's in the pudding. A couple of people obviously here at the conference and at FuturePub last night as well, my manager was very gratified to see that I think probably about 5 of the 7 speakers at FuturePub made reference to the Crossref API and using it to integrate the kind of information that publishers have into these systems, which again makes it easy and more available for people to use. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel. Great. So next up is Knowledge Unlatched, and Frances Pinter is going to tell us about Knowledge Unlatched.
Thank you. On to my, it's for me to do, okay. Right. So actually, talking about Knowledge Unlatched in 5 minutes has always been a great challenge, so I've copped out on this one. I've decided to use a little video which was made by Curtin University last year when my deputy director, Lucy Montgomery, who's based there, won an award. So hopefully...
Scholarly works are the culmination of years of research, and finally they get published. But declining print runs has driven up the cost of publishing. Well-funded libraries might buy a copy or two, but to read it, you have to visit the library or be a member to have access to the e-version. It was their passion for getting university knowledge out there that drove Curtin University Associate Professor Lucy Montgomery and Dr. Frances Pinter to develop a cost-sharing and open access model for distributing scholarly works, Knowledge Unlatched. Scholarly publishers provide books to Knowledge Unlatched with all open access permissions cleared and at a fixed price. Knowledge Unlatched curates the books into collections, maintaining the highest scholarly standards, then offers their latest collections to libraries around the world. As the price is fixed, the more libraries that subscribe, the lower the cost to individual libraries. And as the works are online and freely available, they can be accessed by anyone, anywhere. The initial launch attracted 13 major publishing houses and more than 300 libraries from 24 countries, and the list is growing daily. Books in the pilot collection have been downloaded tens of thousands of times by readers in 170 countries. The future for authors, publishers and libraries is in connecting people with knowledge, wherever and whenever they need it. This is the power of Knowledge Unlatched.
Gosh, that's 3 years summarized in a minute and a half. So, what are we? It's a collaborative initiative, publishers and libraries working together. And it's a space where we can develop models and test things and see what works, see what doesn't work, and then adapt them. And we've, around all of this, developed something called KU Research, which I'll talk about in a moment. My next slide was just in case the technology didn't work. It's in diagrammatic form. If you want to see it, just let me know. But I won't go over it because thanks to the wonderful techies, everything worked fine. So for the application, I had to present what's new. So what's new at KU is more books, more agents, better technology. We're going to try flipping journals in 2018 and more on knowledge, KU Research. And so where we started with was 28 books from 13 publishers. We unlatched them. Then round 2, 78 books from 26 publishers. And now we've just started the pledging period, having announced 343 books from 54 publishers. This is a sort of breakdown of where our libraries have come from. And it pretty much matches the pattern of sales of monographs. This is not surprising. And we're very pleased with the level of participation and hope that it will grow in this next round. We have branched out. We started in London, but operations are now handled in Berlin under managing directorship of Sven Fund, and we have a small base at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and Lucy Montgomery runs KU Research out of Perth, Australia. I can tell you, conference calling is really hard. So, KU Research. Here we've got the principles about it. We're developing tools, we're developing networks, we're exploring how books get distributed. But in the next slide, here are some concrete things that we're actually doing. We're providing libraries with usage statistics now. We're adding geolocational data. We've just completed our first research project with UCL Press, where they asked us to look at their usage data. And we're involved in various other projects, including one at the University of Michigan, where we have a fellow doing, a research fellow doing a ROI on KU from a library's perspective. So the plan for next year is to move into journals as well, and we have a pilot planned with 30 journals, and these will be for journals that are the year of 2018, and it's slightly different from the books because we'll be asking the libraries for a longer commitment for 3 years. We're not just doing books and journals through the libraries. We've also got a new project which will be announced in a month or so with a learned society as a starting point who are doing books, and they have research, they have funding for a few years to publish 30 books online open access. And then what? So we've worked with them on a model which is a tripartite model where the researchers who are members of that society, as well as specialist research institutions and libraries, come together to fund the publishing costs of those books. Okay, you'll be very pleased to hear I'm not going to read this, but do go to our website. Authors absolutely love what we're doing. So I was asked in the interview, is KU a game changer? I'd like to think it is, but I think the best indicator is that I started hearing people say, well, we want to KU it. And I guess we've become a verb. and you've really arrived if you've become a verb. So these are the features of KU that I tried to convince the jury that it's all about us. And I just want to say as a final word, it was a terrific experience going through this application and coming up in front of the juries. And although, of course, I think we should win, actually, if we don't win, I think our co-contestants are absolutely wonderful, and I would be happy with any of them winning, actually. And I'm just so pleased that we're in such a wonderful, vibrant time in our industry. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Frances. Thank you very much. So next up is Orchid, and to present Orchid is 0000-003-2161-3781, also known as Doug Wright and Alice Meadows. Oh no, I should stop doing the jokes.
Hi, I'm Douglas Wright. I'm the Director of Membership for Orchid, and this is my amazing colleague, Alice Meadows, who's the Director of Community Outreach. Well, first, thank you to the panel for allowing us to be here. I mean, we're humbled by this and really appreciate the opportunity. So I'm going to turn it over to Alice. We're going to do sort of a back and forth on what Orchid is. We're going to talk about why Orchid, where, and what. So those three questions in 4.5 minutes.
Not 4.5 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little about the why of Orchid, first of all. This slide really sums up the extent of the problem of name ambiguity in all sorts of things, but in scholarly communications in particular. So, you know, a database of 6 million authors, over 2/3 share the same last name and single initial with another author. Pretty bad. And this is what it looks like in reality. So you may recognize the person on the left. On the right is my lovely dad. He was a prolific author in scholarly communications. He wrote hundreds of articles and a number of books, very scholarly. I am not a scholarly at all, but I do write about scholarly communications. It would be very easy for people to muddle us up because we share the same last name and initials, as in the case of the author database. But we each have our own Orchid ID, which allows us to identify ourselves and connect ourselves to our own publications and other works. Conversely, this is our colleague Laura Paglione, Director of Strategic Initiatives at Orchid. She is known by a number of different names, but they're all her. She hasn't changed. She had a different name before she got married. She's published under a number of different names. So again, being able to connect all those different names to her own outputs and affiliations is really critical. So this is our vision. And I think it really sums up who we are and what we're all about. So we're inclusive. We want a world in which all who participate in research, scholarship and innovation, so not just those working in academia, not just authors, but everyone who contributes to research, to be uniquely identified, and not just identified, but connected to their works, their contributions, their affiliations, and that this will happen across disciplines, across borders, and very importantly, across time. So you get your Orchid ID and you keep it with you forever. It's your forever digital name.
So this is where we are and sort of where we're growing. Orchid started around 2012, and now we're at 22 staff in 9 countries. We have over 500 members. 300 of those we've added just in the last year. Most of those come from national consortia deals in the UK, Italy, Taiwan, Australia, Finland, and those initiatives are growing. So on one hand, we're recruiting members. So those are institutions like publishers, academic institutions, research funders. And we're also encouraging researchers to get their IDs. So with the adoption of Orchid membership from this group of institutions, they're encouraging their researchers and faculty members to get their IDs. Publishers are starting to mandate the use of Orchid IDs when manuscripts are being submitted, and funders are asking also for IDs when funding requests are submitted. So that's kind of helping to generate the use of the IDs. And we're just over 2.5 million ID holders right now in our registry, and that goes up about 75,000 per month. So there is this tremendous momentum from the institution side, becoming members, and also from the researcher side, getting and using their IDs.
So now a little bit looking forward and sort of what we've been working on just recently and looking forward. Peer review functionality was rolled out for peer review last year, so it's 1 year old. We've got a number of early adopters, which is great, and we're now really going fully forward and hoping that many more organisations, not just publishers, but any organisation whose researchers carry out peer review for it will take this on as a way of recognising the contribution that reviewers make. Auto-update is a way that authors can opt to have their Orchid record automatically updated every time they publish a paper using their Orchid ID, so really nice time-saving, reducing errors. Single sign-in, ditto, makes it nice and easy for researchers to sign in. They can sign into their Orchid record now using Facebook, Google, their institutional account, or their Orchid ID. We have a new community working group, and that's something that we're very keen on, is involving the community in this sort of thing. So we're looking at Orchid in Books workflows, so look out for something on that probably in the next few months or so. Ditto, another working group looking at improving ways of how to display Orchid in journal articles, taking on board things like hyper-authored articles and things like that. And then Doug alluded to, a number of publishers now are requiring Orchids. They signed an open letter which was launched at the beginning of this year and has now more than doubled the number of publishers. We have 20 publishers now, I think, signed up to require Orchid IDs for their authors. It's not just about publishing, though. I think Doug's mentioned this and I have. Publishing is really important and we focus primarily on that, but actually publishers are just part of this overall scholarly community, and we think what's different and unique about Orchid is that we bring together, we're run by the community, for the community, we're building stuff that's driven by what you need and what your research community needs. And this is what we want it to look like overall. We want this sort of interoperability, not just between the researcher and his or her organisations, but between those organisations as well, so the information flows through all those systems. And then just to finish, a little light-hearted cartoon, which we thought was a fun thing to finish on.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, and then the final finalist is Wiley ChemPlanner, and Dave Flanagan is going to tell us all about that product.
Great. So hi, I'm Dave Flanagan. I'm going to tell you about ChemPlanner. Are there any organic chemists in the room? Any? No? Okay, that makes my job a little bit easier. So in 1997, researchers at IBM basically took 100 years worth of chess matches and fed it into their computer, IBM Deep Blue. And that computer was able to learn chess and defeat the Grandmaster Garry Kasparov. And Garry Kasparov said that this represented a new kind of intelligence that he hadn't seen before. And I'm using that example because we did something similar with ChemPlanner. What we did with ChemPlanner was we took 40 years worth of chemical reactions, so literally millions of chemical reactions, curated and extracted from the literature, and used that to teach our software, to teach ChemPlanner organic chemistry. And that's important because what we can do now is a chemist working in the lab can open up their web browser and launch ChemPlanner, and they can draw a molecule that they want to make. So over here on the left, you can see a molecule. And what the computer will do is the computer will evaluate all the different possibilities for making that molecule, so millions of different possibilities, and give the user, based on what it's learned about organic chemistry, give the user the shortest, fastest, cheapest route to that target that it can predict. And it can even predict routes that include reactions that haven't been published. So reactions that, based on what it's learned about chemistry, but haven't been published in the literature, that ChemPlanner thinks could be possible. And it can give you alternative options. So if your average world-class organic chemist can draw 5 routes to a compound on the whiteboard, ChemPlanner can draw 10, 15, 100 routes, all prioritized by things like yield and cost and number of steps, giving the chemist a really powerful tool for making molecules. So why is this important? This is important because a chemist can use the ChemPlanner AI to complete more synthesis projects in less time. So for example, in the drug discovery process, this is a diagram of the drug discovery process. It takes about 10 years on average to go from the idea for a molecule to one FDA-approved drug. And the first step you can see on the left there, the step labeled drug discovery, you can see it takes 5 to 10,000 compounds need to be made. That's because when you first start, you don't know what molecules are going to make it through testing and clinical trials and make it into the clinic. And so you have an idea for a molecule, you're a medicinal chemist, but they'll end up having to make 5,000 to 10,000 compounds. And that's not 5,000 theoretical compounds. Some poor schmuck has to work in the lab and make 5,000 compounds. And that takes time. And that's where ChemPlanner comes in. ChemPlanner can shave time off that process. And time, especially for the pharmaceutical industry, but also for other industries, is money. You can look up something on the internet called a priority review voucher and find out that for an FDA-approved drug, 1 month can be worth tens of millions of dollars. So what are the 3 key features and benefits of ChemPlanner? The first is it boosts your creativity. So again, even your world-class organic chemists, maybe they know 500 reactions, maybe they know 1,000 reactions. ChemPlanner knows all the reactions, and so it can give the chemist ideas for things they wouldn't have thought of. It can give the chemist ideas for routes and strategies they wouldn't have thought of. It enhances your productivity. So for example, when you're planning a synthetic route, you need to buy starting materials from somebody to make the compound. Most people don't have the complete contents and up-to-date prices and availabilities and quantities for the entire Sigmund-Aldrich catalog and 9 other suppliers in their head, but ChemPlanner does, because it calls out to the different manufacturer websites and can say that today this would be the cheapest way of making a molecule, and if you come back in a week when prices change, this might be a cheaper way of doing it. Same thing for what reactions are in the literature, same thing for trying to piece together routes. And finally, it's easy to use. We spent a lot of time and a lot of effort testing and retesting and iterating on our designs with our potential users in, for example, the pharmaceutical industry before we started coding anything. The usability for chemistry software and scientific software is relatively low, the bar for usability, but we tried to make ChemPlanner as easy to use as possible for a program that has a lot of very sophisticated underlying cheminformatics technology. Okay. Here's a couple of quotes from users. If it works, it pays for the investment of the application alone. We already got a nice hit from the app. It's good that we're taking user feedback into account. We've already won the Best of Show award at BioIT World earlier this year. So we're getting a lot of good reactions from our customers. So I'll stop there. A big team is working on ChemPlanner at Wiley. So on behalf of the big team, thank you for the nomination. Thank you for your attention today. If you want more information, if you want to see a demo, if you want to see our image movie, visit chemplanner.com or stop me in the hallway out here. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. So there we have it, our 6 finalists, very different products, services, standards, integrations. Quite hard for us to choose a winner. But the good news is, especially for the nervous faces on the panel there, there's only 24 hours to wait. So tomorrow night at the dinner, we shall be revealing the winner. And I'm told that very few people actually know the winner. Even Audrey, and I trust Audrey implicitly, doesn't know yet. Apparently she signs the certificates tomorrow just before we give them out. So even Audrey does not know. So
come and find us in the bar later, and we will say nothing at all. So thank you very much, and let's give it one more final round of applause for all of our finalists. Thank you.